The Memphis Museum of Science and History had planned to celebrate science and history this past weekend with an all-ages, family-friendly, quote-unquote, drag show and also dance party. The festivities were set to begin at 7 in the evening and then continue until 11 at night. There would be, along with the cross-dressers, a full bar, people drinking until they have their fill. Of course, to normal, non-groomer adults, it's already wildly inappropriate to invite small children to a late-night dance party with alcohol, and that would be true even if no drag queen showed up. I mean, with the possible exceptions of wedding receptions, I suppose, but even then, young kids are going to go home before 11 at night. But maybe aside from those, it's hard to think of a scenario where it would be acceptable to involve kids in an event like this, a dance party with alcohol that goes to 11 at night. And why would you want to? I mean, what is the non-creepy, non-pedophilic reason for opening this up to children? In fact, this is a question that I've been asking, many of us have been asking for years now. I actually called the museum myself a couple of weeks ago and posed this question to them when I first heard about this event they were planning. It's a simple one. I mean, why do you want kids there? And also, what does a drag dance party have to do with science or history? Now, as to the latter question, the woman on the other end of the line, who initially told me that she could answer any question I might have about the event, she said that drag it's a part of the culture, and thus it's a matter of history because it's part of culture. Now, I wasn't especially persuaded by that reasoning, but I was more interested in getting an answer to the second question: why do you want kids at the event? And to that, she kind of stuttered and paused and responded, and I quote, this is what she said: because it's an event. Why do you want kids at the event? Well, because it's an event. Yes, but why are you involving kids? At that point, she said that actually, it turns out that she's not the best person to answer my questions, and she'll have to have someone call me back. But it doesn't seem that they ever came up with an answer to the why do you want kids there question, at least not one that they are willing to say out loud. And I know that based on what happened this past Friday night, which was supposed to be the day of the event. The museum ended up shutting down the drag dance party for children at the last minute, blaming the presence of allegedly armed protesters. There's a very small group of people that the media identified as quote-unquote Proud Boys who came and stood peacefully outside of the museum. And this has prompted much hand-wringing from the very same people who had absolutely nothing to say a few weeks ago when a much larger battalion of masked and heavily armed Antifa showed up to a drag show in Texas confronting a peaceful group of protesters there. Now, in that case, there was no problem at all, but now it's a big deal. In any case, the event was canceled, and the drag performers, or would-be drag performers that night anyway, expressed their frustration. Listen.
I'm disappointed in Memphis. I am. I wish people were just more knowledgeable and more accepting. I do.
Particularly disappointed. I feel like when we do things that cancel, it kind of reinvigorates these groups to continue the work that they're doing with intimidating people.
The Memphis Museum of Science and History hosted a Summer of Pride program celebrating the LGBTQ+ community. The drag show, billed as family-friendly, was supposed to be the grand culmination. Susan Gray and her husband expressed their disapproval, displaying signs next to the American flag on their car.
Why does it bother you when someone else brings their own child to see this performance?
Child abuse. I don't care who does it. It's wrong.
Why are you telling people to leave when no one asked you to tell people to leave?
We're not telling people to leave. We're telling people to exit the parking lot. It wasn't our decision to shut the museum down.
Organizer Barbie Wire, heartbroken the show won't go on. Angry, Mosh and MPD didn't stand up to protesters.
There's an entire exhibit in there that's about the history of police removing queer people from spaces, of a country that does not want us to exist, of a culture that does not want us to exist. And so tonight proves that we are still living as a part of that history.
It's obvious from the tone of the questioning that the local NBC affiliate has chosen a side. They've sided with the drag groomers, but even so, they inadvertently provided a very telling contrast, because on the one hand, you had a normal middle-aged woman who has taken the exceedingly rational stance that child sexual abuse is unacceptable. even if the parents are involved. In fact, the parents' involvement makes it worse, if anything, certainly not better. On the other hand, you have a man in a literal clown wig with insane clown posse face paint, strutting around in a women's dress, babbling that he's being oppressed because he's not allowed to dance for a bunch of kids at a science museum. Now, it's up to each of us as individuals to decide whose side we prefer to be on here. But you notice that still none of the people involved were able or willing to engage with the one central complaint that the protesters have, namely that the event involves children. Okay, nobody is showing up to protest adult-only drag shows. Those happen all the time in this country. No protesters. Footage from adult-only drag shows never go viral with people on the right outraged about it. These female mocking minstrel shows have existed in this country for decades, and they were never a major issue until they got the kids involved. In a society rife with anti-religious ideologies like the ones we hear from the left on a daily basis, it can be incredibly challenging to ground oneself in what we know to be true and good, to keep from descending into distrust, frustration, or even hatred. That's why I find God's peace every day through prayer and meditation with Hallow. Hallow is the #1 Christian prayer app in the U.S. and the #1 Catholic app in the world. It's rooted in Catholic tradition, but it's an amazing resource for any Christian looking to dive deeper into their prayer life. Hallow has prayers and meditations to guide you through your entire day, morning to night. Some of the most popular prayers include the daily rosary, gospel reading, and daily psalm with Bishop Barron. Minute meditations are also popular, meditations for sleep, kids' prayers, and so much more. Hallow helps me find peace and calm throughout the day, helps me sleep better as well, lowering my anxiety levels and so many other benefits. So let Hallow help you find your peace and strengthen your faith. All you got to do is go to hallow.com/Matt Walsh, get an extended 3-month free trial, during which you'll have access to all 5,000 meditations and prayers. That's hallow.com/Matt Walsh for 3 months free. Reclaim your peace in this crazy world. Download Hallow today. Now, I personally think that all drag shows are weird and ugly and bad and degrading, but even I wouldn't be talking about them if they simply left the kids out of it. Is that too much to ask? I mean, go ahead and dress up like some kind of weird sexualized Muppet and prance around on stage lip-syncing to Lady Gaga songs. Go ahead and do that. Just do it out of sight, where I don't have to see it, and most importantly, kids don't have to see it. That's all we're asking. And it proves to be too much. It was certainly too much for the drag show over in Chattanooga this weekend, as Tennessee continues, unfortunately, to be involved in these kinds of issues in all of the worst ways. Robbie Starbuck provided footage of this all-ages drag spectacle that, again, happened on the same weekend. And it's some of the most disturbing that we've seen. So we'll watch some of this, and I'll have to narrate it because there's not a lot of audio, but let's play this clip. So you see there, dressed like the Little Mermaid. And a child is stroking his genital area. And then we've got another, okay, here's another drag guy. And here's the move you always see. Spreads his legs open for the kids. Kids are standing there totally confused. Oh, there's a kid sitting at the bar. Nothing wrong with that, right? And then this guy dressed like a fat Poison Ivy from Batman walking around. And the kids are just, like, the kids are not into it. They don't know why they're there. Look, they walk away. Look, the girl's hiding behind her mom. All right, let me turn this off. I mean, that ended up being the most telling moment in the clip, is that this guy is walking around. The kid hides behind her mom. She does not want to be there. She's like, who the hell is this guy? I don't want to talk to this guy. So to recap, there's a man in a Little Mermaid outfit who, there's not even any time to make any jokes about black mermaids because the more relevant fact is that he's standing there as a young child rubs his crotch. Now, obviously, the child has no idea what she's doing. She's just a kid. She sees the sequenced, Little Mermaid outfit. But he realizes what she's doing, and he makes no attempt to stop her, just stands there. Another man spreads his legs for the children attendees, and then another one walks around through the crowd, slowly terrorizing each child individually. Now, it's obvious when you watch this kind of footage that these are not drag events where kids just happen to be attending. which would be bad enough. Rather, the whole point of the event is to expose and indoctrinate kids. I mean, it's not like there's any entertainment value otherwise. These are just pudgy guys who can't sing or dance. They can't do anything. Just kind of like sauntering around, looking like creatures from Pan's Labyrinth, occasionally molesting a child as they walk by. I mean, why, though? What's the point? Nobody involved will explain why they want the kids there, why, in fact, they structure the entire event around the involvement of kids. And that's because the answers are all things they won't say out loud. It's not that they don't have an answer, it's that they won't say it. Now, we know, of course, that the main point and the most sinister is to sexualize the kids, rob them of their innocence. But there's more to it even than that. These drag performances are gaudy and ugly. And the left, as we know, hates beauty, and they seek to condition us from the youngest ages to idolize ugliness. It really works, because this is why many young people today go out of their way to make themselves ugly. They've been brought up in a culture that worships ugliness. And in the cult of ugliness, drag is a sacred ritual. And finally, as always, the objective is to confuse. I mean, that's why the primary emotion you see on the faces of the kids involved in this sort of thing, involved against their will, is confusion. They're just confused. They don't understand why they're there. They don't understand why these men are dressed like this. They don't understand any of it. It is bewildering and disorienting and confusing. That's how our culture wants them. Because it's much easier to manipulate and control a person when they're lost in a fog of confusion. So, ugly, confused, overly sexualized. This is our culture in a nutshell, and there are few things uglier, more confused, or sexualized than a drag show. So it's no wonder that the left is so obsessed with them. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the notification button to get more content like this. If you want to watch or listen to the full show, head to dailywire.com and subscribe today. You can also listen to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.